why, and I just want to kind of spread these out a little bit. So first and foremost, David Robinson of the San Antonio Spurs was my favorite player. Still is my favorite player in the NBA of all time. The Admiral had an amazing career. This dude had a 71-point game to edge out Shaquille O'Neal for the scoring title on the last day of the season. I don't remember the season. He also had a quadruple-double at some point, which is pretty amazing for a center. He was 7'1", but he was quick. Very respected player of his time. So when I got into starting lineup, I was collecting basketball cards, baseball cards. I started with baseball cards, and then I moved over to basketball cards. So this was a perfect, because I loved action figures. We're talking about 1988 is when this line first came out. So when this first came out, I think it was 8th grade. And then in 1989, I was a freshman in high school. So that was around the time where I started to get into sports. But I still loved action figures. I still loved G.I. Joes and Transformers. And that was still something that I enjoyed. I wasn't buying them as much. At this point, you're getting into high school. You're starting to look at girls. So action figures wasn't that big a deal for a little bit. But each of these came with a basketball card, which was great because you can add it to your collection. And it was really cool to be able to have action figures of your favorite sports stars at the time. So Kenner ended up getting all the licenses, and they have a pretty cool story. If you guys look it up on YouTube, Dan Larson did a great job of kind of going into the history of these guys. But this is the first example I have. It's probably one of my older David Robinson figures. This is from 1991. And as you can see here, not great. Not great at all. The articulation it was 3 points of articulation. So he has some waist swivel here, and then you can bring his arms down. But if you put him, he would look absolutely ridiculous. So I didn't, even back then, I didn't understand what was the point of moving the arms up and down. Is you have the basketball in your hand. It might as well have just been a statue. But, whatever. That was, it is what it is. It was what it was. But this is a figure that came out in 1991. As you can see, wasn't great. This one came out in 1995. Let me double check here. Yep, 1995. And they started to get a little more dynamic with it. He's on a flight stand. I guess the likeness was a little bit better. As you can see here, when David Robinson first came into the league, he did kind of have that hairstyle, but then he eventually started doing kind of the high top fade. So they did represent the high top fade, which is great. And it was a little more dynamic. So, now you have some action poses. But this really wasn't an action figure because, again, there was not much action, But I guess with the points of articulation as minor as they were, made it an action figure. Then we got to 1997, and this was cool because they started to get a little bit better with the logo. I feel like it's a little sharper than the one from 2 years prior. I also feel the numbers were a little bit bigger. And I don't know if that was a sign of the Spurs getting new jerseys or deciding to go bigger with their fonts. But I like how the back of this one, the letters are a little thicker, numbers are a little thicker, it's a little tighter. So I definitely liked how the direction they were going in. And then after this release, maybe 4 years later, starter lineup had died. They stopped producing figures, and McFarlane Sports Picks came into full effect at that point. But I believe right around that time, Mattel started rocking out these guys. They were a little bit different. These definitely had just the head moved, the waist moved, and the base. So again, 3 points of articulation, but the arms did not move, which to me made more sense. And I feel like the face was a little closer to what David Robinson looked like. And so this actually had, I did a little research on these guys. A lot of players were released under this line. So these were cool. They were almost like an advanced version of these starting lineup figures. And they also had, what I liked about starting lineup is they started to kind of, obviously they were selling, I think they ended up making $7 million in sales throughout the life of the line. But they started kind of expanding a little bit and throwing up different type of collections. This was one of my favorite ones. I have yet to open, or I've opened it, but I've yet to unseal. The box has been unsealed, but I've yet to unseal the contents. But it was pretty cool. You got the figure. So my Larry Bird is looking crispy mint. As a Boston, born and raised in Boston, you know I'm a big Boston team fan, and Larry Bird was one of the best of all time. To this day, man, this dude was just cold-blooded. But like this line came with, came with kind of a base, and then kind of this newspaper from the Houston Post. Just an article on Larry Bird. So you'd have the, you kind of set it up. It was a cool little setup. You can put at your desk or what have you. And this was pretty dope. And I forgot that there was a David Robinson one. I completely forgot. There was a Michael Jordan one, Patrick Ewing. But I need to get on this guy. I'd love to get my hands on this. I'm pretty sure I can get it for cheap. But so this, so starting lineup expanded to like 12-inch figures, and it was a pretty cool. It was a pretty cool line for its time. But then McFarlane came in with the sports picks. So I don't remember the exact year, but when McFarlane first got into making these sports figures, the first series, the players that were in that series, and I believe it was a baseball series, none of them had their major league jerseys on because he hadn't signed a deal with MLB or the Players Union. So it was just the player's likeness, and a generic uniform and the color of his team. Eventually, McFarlane ended up getting the licenses for most of the major leagues, or I think all of the majors, in terms of NHL, NBL, NBA, and I'm forgetting one. So this was David, again, big David Robinson fan. This is pretty good. He looks, the likeness is pretty good. This is more of like, I want to say an 8-inch figure, because he looks pretty huge. And it would come with, if you can see there in the blue, it would be kind of this the base, and then it had this, you can probably see it here, this little stick there, and you'd set him up so he can kind of look like he's going in for a slam dunk or layup. To this day, a lot of people who collected starting lineup and who were into sports figures keep saying, starting lineup needs to release some of the legends. And that makes sense. I mean, it's a lot of these companies and, McFarlane picks or sports picks and starting lineup eventually started releasing stuff in terms of the legends and people who had retired or were in the Hall of Fame. But either way, this was a pretty cool, this is a 2007 figure. And again, for its time, it was dope. It's just there's no articulation. So again, action figure, I don't know. I don't know if we can call it an action figure because there was no action there. It was just kind of a statue. But it was, the uniform was on point. McFarlane, that's one thing about McFarlane is that he's always been really good at paint apps and that type of thing. A lot of these would eventually break. A lot of them, the weight of them would have them little by little start leaning forward. They weren't great. And even today with the DC McFarlane figures, they're not that great. And it's unfortunate that I shouldn't say it's unfortunate. They're not that great for someone like me who loves articulated action figures, who loves action figure photography. So you get something, the McFarlane action figures are great, but they can't touch Marvel Legends. That's just my personal opinion. But either way, these guys came out. It was dope that you can, he had his Nikes on, the NBA, the Spalding ball, all the logos were there, the NBA logo on his jersey. So that was definitely really cool to see. And so these sports picks lasted for a long time, and I don't think they sell them anymore. I'm pretty sure they don't. But it was a pretty dope figure for its time. And last but not least, the real reason I wanted to create this video was to kind of open this figure and kind of give you guys my reaction without having had the figure opened up beforehand, and kind of looking at it and trying to pose it, just kind of get my immediate reaction on the new wave of starting lineup. So a couple years ago, I was at HasCon in Rhode Island, and I saw I don't remember if I saw some of the Marvel Legends creators or some of the G.I. Joe line people, but I remember mentioning to them, yeah, I really need to get on some 6-inch G.I. Joe figures, because, man, I'm telling you, we love G.I. Joe. And a few years later, it happened. And I think I ended up having a conversation with someone later on that same day where I was like, listen, and not only that, but starting lineups. Y'all should have like a fully articulated line of starting lineups. I mean, back in the day, those were little mini statues and those were cool. But it's a new age, man. Everything has to be articulated. It has to be on point. So that'd be great. Again, I'm not saying that my words created these lines, but it was in the back of my mind for years. So it's kind of cool to have this in hand. So when I bought this is the other thing. When these were first announced, they were announced at a retail price of $49.99. And I thought Hasbro lost their mind. I understand you're dealing with Nike and Jordan, the NBA Players Association, the NBA, the league itself. There was also an NFT card. There was a couple different components. But there's no way that a non-import today should cost $50. I noticed the price dropped the other day to $29.99. I am a Hasbro Pulse member. I get free shipping. It ended up costing me $31 with tax total. I have no issue paying that. I don't think I'm going to get anything. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll open this up and be like, man, this is amazing. I want to get Ja or I want to get LeBron or what have you. But for now, I just wanted to get hometown hero Jayson Tatum. And let's get into opening this guy up. And that magazine you see came with the figure. I think it's pretty cool. Slam. I used to collect Slam. There used to be a Slam Kicks magazine where it would release once a year all the sneakers that were coming out. I still have some of those. Those were pretty dope. But let's take this aside. Let's open this guy up. Let's do this. Okay. Piece of cardboard. Here we have the base. Check out the base. And then within this, it's just the flight stand. And there's a little baggie here, so I'm going to put this back here. The figure itself. Let's put this box away. And take this out of the way. And we'll get back to this. Here's the card. We'll open that in a sec. But let's see. Okay. Jayson Tatum. All right. At first look, it looks pretty dope. Looks pretty dope. Pinless at the elbows and knees, which is great, especially when, players don't have a lot of gear. And in this case, they're not going to have any clothing pretty much on their knees or their elbows. So I'm pretty happy with that. The jersey does look a little bulky, but it is kind of pliable. It's a soft material. You can kind of see that. I love the fact that the NBA logo looks really good. The Nike logo, the Celtics logo is looking really solid. In terms of the likeness, it looks a little bit like Jayson Tatum. And it does have actually the little scar there under his eye, which is pretty cool. If you can see it. Because he does have a little scar. It got his haircut. I think his haircut's pretty funny because whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, this dude got like little bangs. That's what's up. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. Let's open up some of the other accessories. There's a little bag that comes with it. You have a basketball with the hand permanently on there, which is fine, I guess. If you're gonna have multiple hands, that's cool. That works. It'd be good to have a loose basketball though. So I'm pretty sure they'll do that at some point. Here's the little thing that goes around his waist there to put him on his little flight stand. And he does come with a pointer finger and 2 other hands. So he has a total of 5 hands, including the basketball. So I guess that would be 6. All right. And so what I'm gonna do now is kind of show you guys. Again, I don't review figures, man, so I'm not really good at this. But I'm giving it an effort here. But yeah, so the knees definitely, and right off the bat, what I like is that it's loose. A lot of these figures lately have been coming where they're really, really tight. You got to kind of maneuver them or put them in hot water. But you can see that he has good flexibility in terms of the ankle pivot. He does have a cut right there, which is great at the socks where it has a Nike logo. These are some Jordans that has a logo underneath as well, which is pretty dope. Looks like he can do a split. Looks like there's a ball joint there at the torso where it meets this part here. So that's pretty cool. His arms go out. They spin all the way around, which is dope. Let's see if we get the head movement. Up, down. It looks down really good. Looks up pretty well. I don't know. I feel like maybe his head is shaped like that. I feel like his head is shaped a little funny like it. Not just maybe it's the hair. I don't know. I do like his beard. I'm a fan of beards. Yeah, but I like it, man. I like it. I really like it. I might have to get a second starter lineup and maybe a third because I love how the jaw looks. And LeBron's, a lot of people in Boston do not like LeBron. I'm a LeBron fan, man. I respect his game. I definitely respect his game. Yeah, man. I may have to get a jaw if I can at this price or a LeBron. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I actually like how it came out. And I want you guys to remember the beginning of this video, those starting lineups compared to this guy. I mean, it's night and day. Let's bring out a David Robinson. I mean, come on, bruh. That's wild. That's wild. Starting lineups first started retailing, I believe it was like $4 when they first came out. But they only had like 10 total poses in the beginning, and they just slapped different uniforms on them. So obviously it's a little cheaper to make when you do it like that. But just looking at both of them side to side is pretty hilarious. It's pretty interesting. Alright, so this is how I feel. Even before opening this up, I already had some opinions on starting lineup in terms of what they could have done better and what I feel may be cool to see in the future. But I don't know. I'm not an expert. I love action figures, but by no means do I know the inner working in terms of what they have with budgets and how they go about that. But one of the things that I think would be pretty dope is if, you know what, I'm going to go off screen just so I can open up this. Well, let me show you guys the figure real quick. So this Conor McGregor figure by Jazzwares is a good example where I feel starting lineup can take some cues from. And this is what I mean. All right, so the biggest complaint we all had was, why don't these players have their tattoos? All right, so I don't think Hasbro has officially come out and said why, but my understanding from some of the research I've done is that the tattoo artists in the past have sued either entertainers or athletes or what have you for using their tattoos, and I guess in a way where the person who got the tattoo receives a compensation where the tattoo artist does not, which is weird to me, because if I go to a tattoo artist and I pay for your artwork, it's now on my skin, and let's say I magically somehow became a Hollywood actor, I can't be on any magazines showing my tattoos because you're going to sue me, although I paid you for this work. That's just very strange to me, so I'm not sure what the inner workings are. But, like, man, you can see how well these tattoos came out. Man, this looks great. This looks amazing. Even, like, look at that. That's pretty good. So somehow, it'd be great if Hasbro found a way around this, because giving the players the tattoos that they have, obviously they're gonna look better, because right now they, and I can get over it. I can pose this guy, it's not a big deal, but it's not Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum is tattooed. Most of these players are tattooed up, so it's very weird. The other issue that a lot of people had that I think they can work on was soft goods. So in this particular case, Connor has some tights on, right? These are like stretchy, but even the material has the logos that printed on there just fine. It's, it stays, the pants stay on them, no problem. Now, obviously, with the NBA players, there is a little more of a bagginess. You need to move around a little more, but not too much, because most players kind of like that tight feel, just, I'm assuming, for aerodynamics. They're faster, they jump higher. I don't know what it is, but I believe that there's a medium, there's a in-between where they can create some of these pants and jerseys, these soft goods, and maybe not make them as tight, make them a little bit looser. But I almost feel like this material isn't bad. Like, I don't feel like it would tear. I mean, it's stitched in the back. It doesn't, I don't know. I just feel like, I think it's worth exploring for Hasbro. And I'm sure it came up in terms of when they were, getting ready to create these. I'm pretty sure somebody said, what are we going to do for jerseys? And this ended up being the route that they went. But I feel like there's a way. I mean, the jersey's not too horrible. It's the pants that just kind of give it a weird look because of where the break is. So if it was soft goods, it was a cloth material, then we wouldn't see these lines, that kind of make it look a little weird, not horrible, just not as good as I think it could be. I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. I just feel like I wish that they would kind of look at something like this and say, how can we make this so that this becomes a better figure, and not only make it a better figure, but make it more dynamic. So in this case, Jazzwares came with a second head sculpt that's totally different from the first one, where he's showing some emotion. Some emotion. Like, Jayson, this looks great. This is great for a vanilla pose. This is great if he's posting up, if he's taking a shot. But, it'd be good to get a head sculpt with a smile, or a head sculpt where he's yelling, or something a little different to just give it that extra. I mean, it was great to get, 5 total hands. That's great. But step it up a little bit, and let's get another head sculpt in here. Let's get a different head, where we have a different face sculpt, rather, where it just changes, gives it some more emotion. Overall, I'm happy with the figure. I really am. I gotta look up those Jordans to kind of see what they look like in real life. Those look pretty dope. And then it just came with this card here. And let's open this guy up. It's okay. It came in plastic. That's pretty cool. And again, this was a big deal for me as a collector when I collect the starting lineups, because I would collect, like, let's say David Robinson was one of my favorite players. I'd have every David Robinson card I can get my hand on, and then I'd have these that only came with the figure, so I felt like made my card collection even better. But this card's pretty cool, man. And I like it that they have the actual starter lineup figure in the back and a real picture in the front. That's pretty dope, man. Overall, I'm happy with this figure. I'm happy that I paid just the $29.99 and not the $50. I definitely would have been a little disappointed if it was a $50 figure. We don't need all these extra things like NFTs and all of that. That's great. I mean, the little magazine that it came with is pretty dope, but like, I don't have to have this. It's cool that I have it, but I don't want to pay more because it's included, I guess. But y'all, so that's pretty much my take on this starting lineup, Jayson Tatum and the line. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, leave them below, and I will get back to you ASAP. And I'm out. Peace. All right, my fault. I lied. I meant to do this. I said I was gonna do this, just a comparison in terms of other action figures out there. So this is Jayson Tatum standing next to his left is a Grifter figure by McFarlane. I bought it just to check out what these figures are like, and I think they're horrible. They're just horrible. They look good, but that's all. That's all McFarlane's about. They look good. They're a weird scale, what have you. This is a Marvel Legends What If Zombie, and that is version 2 Snake Eyes with Timber. Timber's not pictured, but that's what that is. So you get an idea. They're all pretty pretty close in terms of height, articulation, except for that guy. His articulation is horrible. But yeah, just wanted to kind of show you guys this. You have an idea. And now I'm really out. Peace.